What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Pip, and we are here for another video talking about WWE. And this time we're talking about Money in the Bank, which is less than a month away. At this point, Money in the Bank is one of the big five. It's one of my personal favorites. I think it's a great concept, but I've always had one major issue with it. And that issue is I don't think former world champions should be in Money in the Bank. The whole point of Money in the Bank is to bring a new superstar into the world title picture. And so today we're going to talk about 10 superstars that I think could be a good Mr. Money in the Bank this year that have never won a world title. And then in tomorrow's video, we'll also talk about 10 women who I think would make great Miss Money in the Banks that have never been a world champion before. Um, I'll go through, I'll explain why I think they would make a good Mr. Money in the Bank or Miss Money in the Bank in tomorrow's video. I think um, it'll be good to talk about why their character would be a good Money in the Bank holder, why their current story or stories that you could tell with them being a Money in the Bank holder would be good, things like that. I also do have a couple honorable mentions who didn't quite make the list for whatever reason. I'll go ahead and throw those in here real quick to talk about them and acknowledge them that I do think they could make a good Money in the Bank holder, but not right now for whatever reason. Maybe as soon as next year. But even if they did win Money in the Bank this year, I wouldn't necessarily be mad at it. So, like I said, this one is to talk about specifically the men's Money in the Bank video ladder match. So let's go ahead and talk about that now with our honorable mentions. Jumping right in, I've got 6 honorable mentions real quick. They're fairly quick. We won't dive too deep into them. But for starters, we got 2 men who just returned to the company. We've got Aleister Black and Rusev. I think both of them had a decent time in their first runs in the company, but not to the full potential. They had interesting concepts over in AEW, but again, didn't reach that full potential. So the question is, now that they're back in the company under the umbrella of Triple H, will that give them the resurgence they need to be future world champions? I don't know. I think it's possible. I think it could be interesting. So I think we need another year to really know where these two stand. But if they were in the conversation for Money in the Bank next year, I wouldn't be surprised. If they weren't, I wouldn't be surprised. So that's why I included them in the honorable mentions, but not on the actual top 10. Um, After that, I also have Bronson Reed, who I think could be a real big contender had he not gotten hurt in Survivor Series War Games. Um, we don't know when he's going to be back. We know that he should be back soon-ish, but not exactly sure when. I think that he could be a wonderful concept of Mr. Money in the Bank. That big man, that monster heel. But I just don't know if there's enough time yet because we don't know when he's returning. So again, it's just current storylines holding him back, in my opinion. So I'm going to keep him off the list for now. And then we've got Montez Ford, who I think we all know has the potential. He's fantastic in the ring. He's fantastic on the mic. But I think for whatever reason, he is just stuck in the tag team scene right now. That could change. We've been expecting it to change for years, and it hasn't. But we also thought it would change for years with Edge and Christian, and then it finally did. And we thought it would happen for years with the Hardys, and then it finally did. So like it's hit or miss. We'll see, but I think Tez could one day be a great one. The last current roster guy I got is Braun Breaker. I think he'd be an awesome Mr. Money in the Bank. I just don't think his current story is conducive of it. With this new evolution-esque group that we're feeling with Seth Rollins, the whole future goes through him. I feel like the focus is him being world champion, not Braun. Maybe next year we could have an interesting story with the whole Batista turning on Triple H mentor story with Breaker turning on Rollins. Maybe as Mr. Money in the Bank. We don't know. We did just kind of get that story with Tiffany and Nia, though, so I don't know. But I think he could be a great Mr. Money in the Bank in the future, just not yet. And then our last honorable mention is a guy that's sort of signed with the company, but hasn't had a single match in WWE yet. But he is signed with the company. He's part of their new acquisition of AAA, and I think he'd be a fascinating Mr. Money in the Bank, and that is El Hijo del Vikingo. He's so fun to watch. He's so amazing. And the concept of him in a Money in the Bank ladder match would be fun. He could be a fun Mr. Money in the Bank. He is one of the major futures of Lucha Libre. So I definitely think he's a fun concept. But him not being really in the company yet holds him off the top 10. Now let's talk about the top 10. At number 10, while we're talking about Lucha Libre, let's talk about Penta. Penta's been, I mean, he's had a rocket strapped to his back since he showed up in the company. He had an Intercontinental Championship match at his very first WrestleMania 4 months after debuting. He has been in multiple Intercontinental Championship matches. He's been part of major programs with the Judgment Day. He is clearly somebody that WWE sees really highly of. The question is, will he be world champion before him and his brother Rey Fenix inevitably reunite to form the Lucha Bros in WWE and run the tag team scene? I think he could, and if he does, it would have to probably be soon, which is why I think the idea of Penta becoming Mr. Money in the Bank for the World Heavyweight title this year is the best chance we'll ever have for Penta to be a world champion in WWE. So if you're going to pull the trigger on it, why not now? At number 9, I have an NXT superstar. I personally am a huge fan of him, as is my best friend, and I think he could be a fantastic Mr. Money in the Bank. I know that it won't happen. I'm well aware. But I have Wesley. I love Wesley. He's insanely talented. His work as a heel has been very good. His work as a face is very good. He is a very well-rounded wrestler, a very well-rounded talker. He is almost the perfect idea of what you have in mind as a Mr. Money in the Bank, if you were to build one in a lab. So I think Wesley's the perfect idea. It's just he hasn't had that character. So I don't know that we can look at him as a great option. I just think that he would be a really fun one, and he would work. But I do have him low on the list because I don't see them ever treating him the way that he would have to be treated for him to be a believable Mr. Money in the Bank. At number 8, I've got Sami Zayn. I think his entire character is built on this idea of being an underdog, and having him eventually make it to the world title scene is something we all want, especially with this current feud kind of going on with Seth Rollins. And I do feel like Seth Rollins is eventually going to win the world title at some point this year. So having Sami Zayn be a potential option for Mr. Money in the Bank could be really fascinating. I do think that there are some certain restrictions to that. So he's not higher up on the list because he has some things holding him back, as well as I think that he's got a really high potential to be a major candidate for winning the Royal Rumble, since the Royal Rumble in January is going to be in Saudi, and we know how loved he is in those Saudi crowds. So Sami Zayn has to be one of the front runners to win the Royal Rumble this year, especially if the whole concept of this is talking about people we could see becoming a world champion. That way, for his path to world championship glory, makes more sense. So that's why I've got him at 8 instead of higher, but I do think he would be a good Mr. Money in the Bank. He would probably be the first Money in the Bank we've had in a while that would cash in with advance notice, making a match out of it, not a, opportunist moment. But nonetheless, I've got Sami Zayn at 8. Moving on to number 7, I wanted to put El Grande Americano. I really wanted to. He's just, undefeated at WrestleMania, current speed champion, the greatest luchador of all time, but he's kind of busy defending that speed championship with utmost glory. So we'll go ahead and take his close personal friend, Chad Gable. I think at number 7, Chad Gable's such a great choice. Gable, he's been doing some of the best work of his career. I really thought he was going to win the Intercontinental title last year off of Sami Zayn. He needed to. Um, and he didn't, and I wasn't sure where it was going, but then he finally aligned with the Creed brothers and Ivy Nile. He formed American Made, and this heel Gable has been amazing. They're kind of letting him lean into his comedic side, but also still making him feel like a threat. He did just take a loss to Penta, but it's okay. He can take losses, especially if he's going to win Money in the Bank. We already know Mr. Money in the Bank loses almost all their matches to make you feel like they're nobody. That way you can just skyrocket them back up when they win the world title. So I don't know. I think Gable would be a great concept. And then you could have him be that guy that cashes in on Jay, that cashes in on Sammy if Sammy wins. I just think Gable's such a great choice. And then having American Made behind him while he holds the briefcase, and I just think it would be so good. I think Gable's a great choice. So I've got him at 7. At 6, I've got your current Intercontinental Champion, Dirty Dominic Mysterio. His entire character has just shot to the moon over the last year. He is one of the most beloved heels in all of WWE right now, which is crazy because he was one of the most despised heels like a year and a half ago. No, you couldn't speak if Dominic Mysterio was in the ring, because the second he tried to speak, the crowd would flood him with boos. And now they're chanting his name. They're cheering for him. There was fanfare galore when he won that Intercontinental title at WrestleMania. And I think the idea of him becoming Mr. Money in the Bank and winning a world title in the next year is very plausible. He wouldn't be the first person to hold a mid-card title while being Mr. Money in the Bank. The Miz did it in 2010. He was the U.S. champion and Mr. Money in the Bank at the same time. Dominic could do a very similar thing with the backing of Judgment Day. Could end up being screwed out of the title, the IC title, by Judgment Day, but then he still or by Finn specifically, but still has the world title to fall back on with the Money in the Bank. We could tell the same story we did with Priest, but this time, Finn's messing up Dom instead of Priest messing up Finn. It would just be a full circle moment, and Dominic Mysterio would be a very good option. But not the perfect one. Now's where we start getting into some really interesting ideas. At number 5, I have a really crazy answer. A lot of you are going to be like, wait a minute, how do you have this above other people? But hear me out. At number 5, I've got R-Truth. I know, of all people, R-Truth. But picture this. R-Truth wins Money in the Bank, not even realizing what he's done because it's R-Truth. And then down the road, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, whatever it may be, R-Truth comes out, cashes in Money in the Bank, not realizing what he's doing, during a match that John Cena is defending the world title, or the WWE title, against, I don't know, anybody. Truth pins the other person, and then goes to hand the title to John, and is like, don't worry, John, I won it for us. We're good. We're still champ. You can't tell me that's not perfectly on brand for R-Truth. It gives R-Truth the world championship that he's never had in WWE. You guys have to remember, R-Truth, before he came back to WWE as a joke character, he was Ron the Truth Killings in TNA and became the first ever African-American NWA world champion. Ever in the history of that title. R-Truth has never won world title gold in WWE, and he deserves it. And WWE is on this whole thing of making history and changing history and everything like that. And currently, the oldest world champion in WWE history is Vince McMahon. If you wanted to get rid of that, R-Truth is 1 year older than Vince was when he won the world title. You could make R-Truth your oldest world champion ever. You could have him drop it back to John a week and a half later. He doesn't have to have a long title reign. But Truth's story with John Cena right now could be a brilliant catalyst to finally giving somebody that has been loyal to this company for the better part of 15 years and has put themselves through the ringer physically, mentally, emotionally, personally, it would be the ultimate payoff for R-Truth. So I've got R-Truth at 5. At 4, I know a lot of you are going to be even more mad at this, and I don't blame you, but it's the truth. It's Logan Paul. I don't want Logan Paul to win the Money in the Bank. I don't want Logan Paul to win anything. But there's no denying he is a very talented pro wrestler. If he's going to be more full-time, which it seems he is, he makes a very logical choice with all of the media that he brings to be Mr. Money in the Bank, be world champion, be things along those lines. And Logan's also the kind of guy, he can disappear for 4 months and nobody asks questions. You do that with Money in the Bank, and then all of a sudden he shows up at Survivor Series and cashes in on, a Jey Uso Seth Rollins match, or, a Sami Zayn Seth Rollins match, or whatever. You suddenly have a situation where Mr. Money in the Bank's been gone for 4 months and he's back and cashing in and everybody's shocked. So Logan Paul just makes sense. I don't want to talk about it too much, but it just does. At number 3, I got Karrion Kross. I think he's been doing some of the best work of his career, and he deserves to be rewarded. That promo he cut after WrestleMania that most people thought was a shoot, it was absolutely a work. He wouldn't still be getting TV time if it wasn't a work. Don't let yourselves get worked over like that. But he has been doing some of the best work of his career, and he deserves to be acknowledged for it. And he would just be brilliant. The psychological warfare he could do being Mr. Money in the Bank would be mint. But he does not crack our top 2, because our top 2 I personally have right at the top, interchangeable damn near. But I do have one over the other for a reason, and I'll give you that in a second. At number 2, I've got LA Knight. Yeah. I think LA Knight is beyond due for a world title run. He should have won Money in the Bank 2 years ago, if we're being honest. I think now that we're past Backlash, he is officially done with the U.S. Championship scene, and the Money in the Bank feels like the natural progression for him. I think he'd be great. It fits his character, it fits his gimmick. It would be perfect. The only reason I don't have him at number 1 is because all of the things I just said also apply to the person I have at number 1, and number 1 is a heel, and I always will stand on the ground that I think Money in the Bank works better in the hands of a heel than it does a face, and that is why at number 1, I have nobody other than himself, Carmelo Hayes. Carmelo Hayes, just like LA Knight, has this pompous character that fits the concept of Money in the Bank, fits the glory of Money in the Bank, has this, just big Hollywood star feel to him, and he's a heel. And that's why Melo just makes a little bit more sense than LA Knight. Just a little bit, not much. But I think Melo is money. His entire gimmick is built to be Mr. Money in the Bank, honestly. Like, it just makes so much sense. And then you could have this thing between him and Miz teaching him how to use Money in the Bank, because he's been Mr. Money in the Bank twice. And yeah, you forgot that, but Miz has been Money in the Bank twice. He won it off of Otis, just a reminder. Melo, he just makes so much sense. So that's my list for, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, please calm down. I'm not saying that it will happen or it should happen. It's just my opinion. These are my people that I think would be very good for Mr. Money in the Bank this year. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Make sure you keep an eye out for tomorrow's video where we talk about the same exact list, but for the women's Money in the Bank. And let me know if there's anything else you'd like to talk about when it comes to Money in the Bank. If you'd be interested in seeing some more videos, maybe, even though I don't want former world champions to win Money in the Bank, maybe a video talking about former world champions that could be good Mr. Money in the Bank. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I am Pip. Y'all are the greatest. And when in doubt, we'll see you next time. See ya!